Hello, Cal67 Gaming here. If you watched our last haul, you'll notice that we did pick up a Japanese Nintendo 64 and a couple of games. And I think I even mentioned at the time that we might go a bit more in depth in a couple of videos as we're building a collection, simply because it's a system that I've never had any interaction with before. I've never owned one. I've never known anyone who's owned one. So I'm discovering all these games for the first time. And I thought it might be interesting just to share my thoughts as we go through. So without taking up too much more time here, I'll just let you know that the first game that I'll be looking at is the first game that I picked up, which was Diddy Kong Racing. It would be so easy to simply dismiss Diddy Kong Racing as a Mario Kart clone. And I guess there is a lot of similarities between the two games. However, Diddy Kong Racing is a little more than that. It's not simply a kart racer first and foremost. The game itself also includes hovercraft and aircraft. So actually it makes the game far more comparable to Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, which is a much more recent game, which I've got a little bit of experience with. The game itself, I think, plays really tight. The controls are as good as they can be on the three-pronged controller, which I'm still not really sure about, if I'm honest with you. It takes some getting used to, and you play this with the middle and the right prong because you're using the stick. The game itself, there is 8 selectable characters. Now I don't know if this is a gap in my Nintendo knowledge. I do recognise, of course, Diddy Kong, and I recognise Banjo from Banjo-Kazooie, and I also recognise Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day, who all make an appearance in this game. The other characters I'm not familiar with at all. Off the top of my head, I think we've got a mouse called Pepsi, we've got a tiger called Timber, some other, is it Crush or Crunk or something is the crocodile? Anyway, they're not characters that I'm familiar with. That may be a gap in my Nintendo knowledge. I may get to know them as I discover more games for the system. The game itself, whilst as I said it can be compared with Mario Kart, obviously, as a cartoon racing game, it shares a lot of similarities with the simple track layouts, which get a little more complicated as you go through the game. It's got pickups which give you weapons to use against your opponents. Not only weapons to use, but shields to guard you against their weapons. Where it differs is that you can choose what weapons you're going to pick up. First of all, the weapons all seem to have a different coloured balloon that you drive through. Red being a rocket, green being an oil slick. There's another one, like a rainbow one, which is a magnet, amongst others. So you can choose which one you're going to get. Now, where that becomes important is that you can upgrade. So, for example, with the rocket, if you choose a rocket, the first time you drive through a balloon, you get a rocket, which will fire in a straight line in exactly the same way as a rocket would do on Mario Kart. If you keep a hold of that rocket and choose the second one, you'll get a homing rocket. So now you don't even have to aim it. It will find its target for you. If you collect 3 without firing one off, you get 10 rockets. This adds a little bit more tactical awareness, shall we say, to the proceedings. The other thing, of course, that we've got is we've got bananas to pick up, which appear to make you a little faster as you collect them. I'm not 100% sure on that. And there's also pads on the road which will give you a temporary boost of speed. So you've got some similarities to Mario Kart, but there's enough to make it different. The other thing that you've got boss battles, which is something you don't get, of course, in Mario Kart. And the boss battles are, well, take the first one for example. The first one's against a Triceratops running up a hill in a spiral. That's how it works. And you've got to beat it to the top of the hill. Now the problem with that is that it gets way ahead of you. First of all, it does seem to be a little bit quicker, and if you get underneath it, it will trample you, and it'll just kill all your speed. You do get obviously speed boosts, and you get rockets to use on it, and you have to use these judiciously. You have to, shoot it to slow it down, get around about it on a part of the mountain or the spiral where you can get past it, and if you get to the top, you progress to the next world. It's incredibly challenging. Actually reminds me a lot of Ridge Racer, if for those who are old enough to remember that on the PS1, where you had the devil car, where you get a chance to get ahead of it, and then you just have to keep ahead of it, and yet you really have to do a perfect lap. That's kind of where we are with these boss battles. As for this game being Japanese as opposed to English, I haven't had much problems with it, or many difficulties with it. Obviously, all the writing is in Japanese. However, because the game itself was developed by Rare in the UK, it was localized in Japanese. So actually, all the voices in the game, they're all in English. So you can follow the story without having to read the Japanese text. With menus and what have you, what you find is that trial and error, you find out what every menu option is, and you don't recognize the characters as in what they say. What you do is you get to know whereabout on each menu the option that you want is. The other big difference between this and Mario Kart that I've noticed is that you actually start in an open world where you drive around. There's like an elephant there that you can talk to, and you can explore that. And at one point in the game, the way you progress through the levels is if you win a race, you get a golden balloon, and you need a certain number of golden balloons to access each race. You get to a point where I think you're on 4 golden balloons, and you need 5 golden balloons for the next race. Now you can't go back to a previous race and get a second balloon from that. What you actually have to do is you have to go back into the open world, and there is a balloon in the open world that you have to find. In my case, and I don't know if this is always the case, I had to ask the elephant to change my vehicle from a cart to an aircraft, and it was floating around in the sky. That's how I progressed the story. So it's actually been a pleasure getting to know this game and playing it. It's very charming. And to continue the comparison with Mario Kart, I actually think I prefer this game. That being said, I haven't played Mario Kart on the 64, so my opinion could change. But that's my initial thoughts, just going into the game with no preconceptions, no real knowledge of the game, or in most cases the characters. And that's it for this time. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop a like on the video, drop a comment, let me know what you think. This is the first sort of review that I've done on the channel, so it'd be nice to get a little bit of feedback, so please drop that down there. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are a small channel and we're looking to grow. That's the only way it's going to happen. If you want to share the video with anyone or anywhere, please feel free to do so. Be very appreciative if you did that. And until next time, keep gaming.